Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Monday morning devotional with me. This is our first one as Kingdom Life, and I'm just so excited to spend this time with you. Thank you for taking the time. About 5 minutes we've got here. And you might be watching this during your lunch break or your afternoon break, or maybe in the evening coming home. I want to go back to what I was speaking on yesterday morning about the call to rebuild. It's just time to rebuild. And we're looking at the book of Nehemiah, and we know that Nehemiah was given the go-ahead by the king, was given papers to show that he was then the governor and overseer of the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem that had been devastated by the Babylonians 70 years prior, and that we're in the 70th year. And that he went with the grace of God upon him to rebuild the wall. But we also looked at the book of Ezra, just briefly, really, about how the first thing that was built, if remember what Brian Truman said if you were in the service, the first thing that was built was the altar, the place of worship. And then the temple was built, and then the walls of Jerusalem were built to make the place safe and prosperous once again. And what I pointed out is that God wants to rebuild the temple of your heart, to put his passionate fiery flame within you, to burn pure within you, so that then from the inside out, your life and the world around you is transformed. Now you may be thinking, oh, that's great. These guys, they're listed in the Bible. But you know what? They were ordinary people, just like you and me. In fact, in the book of Ezra, the introduction of the Bible that I've been blessed with by a Father and Lord of mine, the author writes this: ordinary people hoping that our lives will count for something in the end. Isn't that what most of us are? Ordinary people. No big superhero, no colorful, charismatic leader. Just plain you, just plain me. And isn't it true that we just want to make a difference in our world? Ezra was just an ordinary man, sent with a task to oversee the rebuilding of the temple. Nehemiah was just a cupbearer in the courts of the king, and he became a governor, endorsed not just by the king, but by God himself. You and I, we are just nobodies. And I've always found that a nobody helping anybody to become a somebody is a somebody, even though they may seem they're a nobody. Because God uses anybody. In the first verse of Ezra, it talks about King Cyrus of Persia, how God used King Cyrus of Persia in a fulfillment of a prophecy from Jeremiah. And it says also that the Lord stirred upon his heart. God uses anybody and anything, even world events like what's recorded in the Bible, to get his work done for his glory and his name's sake. You may feel like a nobody, but God calls you a somebody. And he wants anybody to just believe that he has called you to do something beautiful and mighty in your world. All it takes is to take a step of faith, believe, and from your heart, trust in him and obey. God uses anybody and makes you a somebody. Look at Elijah. He was an ordinary man. And the Lord said to him that to pray that it would stop raining, and it stopped raining. And the land became a land of drought, and the king was furious with him. And then we know that God said, pray for rain. And Elijah prayed for rain, and there was no rain. And he got stressed, and he got worried, and he got anxious. And he says that he put his head between his knees. This great prophet was just an ordinary man like you and me. He sent a servant out a couple of times, and the third time the servant came back and said, I see a cloud coming out of the sea, the size of the fist. And that was it. It sparked Elijah. And he said, go and tell the king to get going to where he needs to go. And it says that he ran past the king. And the Spirit of God came upon him. Listen, he was just an ordinary man, just living with an extraordinary God, seeing extraordinary things. You're an ordinary person that God can use today. God bless you.